What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. I'm Warren Thompson, and today we have a lot of information coming directly from Marvel Studios, with a lot of it coming from Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige, and the other part coming from Marvel Studios' vice president, Nate Moore. So the source for this info is as good as it gets. And it's really interesting. Recently, they have been talking about in interviews their process of one, leaks, how they are trying to contain leaks a little bit more, and two, how they are striving to get better, how they are trying to make better movies, better shows, and they talk about what their main goal is always with every movie and every show, what the goal is of Marvel Studios. Now, a lot of people are really excited for Phase 5. We know that Marvel Studios is going to kick it up a notch with Phase 5. They've already said that. We already know that Phase 4 was kind of a cool down period, a little bit of a break. We got introduced to some new characters, and we had a lot of stories about some previous characters that have been around for a little bit. But there were a lot of people who thought it was kind of slow and thought that the connectivity just really wasn't there. But Marvel Studios has addressed this and said that moving forward with Phase 5, it's about to be completely different. In fact, they literally said that those characters that were introduced and that had stories in Phase 4 are now about to be thrown into the fire, and that everything is really going to start to connect. And we're going to see all the dots connect really soon, and how in Phase 4, it was just a big setup for Phase 5, Phase 6, and Secret Wars. And you might have heard the rumor that Kevin Feige wasn't exactly pleased with Phase 4. But we know that they are always trying to improve, and now Vice President Nate Moore, along with Kevin Feige, have sort of told us their process on how they try to improve with each project. So they're basically telling us how they are going to improve upon Phase 4 and make Phase 5 and Phase 6 even better. And they even talk about trying to keep leaks from getting out. Now, I know a lot of people who watch my channel love leaks, love spoilers. I do too. But the speculation and not knowing what is real and what is not real is really the fun part. So what Marvel Studios is talking about is actual leaks, like how the captions for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania leaked out. Those are some pretty big leaks, because that is the whole movie. That is essentially the script. So when talking about the process of getting better, Vice President Nate Moore explains this process, and he states that Disney employees usually get an email asking, do you want to see a screening? However, they don't actually know what the screening is. They are simply asked, do you want to see a screening? And here's where it gets kind of interesting. He says, and they before could bring friends. Now, they're not allowed to because they are cracking down on leaks. And he says, I think we tightened up a bit because frankly, people leak and it sort of ruins it for everyone. But they show up, and then we say, we literally have the same guy who asks the questions. His name is Andy. He's fantastic. And he goes out front and he says, you're one of the first audiences to see this pictured movie, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. And sometimes people are really surprised and go, oh, that's one I wanted to see. And sometimes they're really confused, like, what's Eternals about? So these people really have no idea what movie they're about to see. They just know that it's a Disney movie or something owned by Disney. So they're cracking down on leaks, but here's where he explains the process of trying to improve each time. And this is why they have these test screenings. And he says about the amount of people that come in, he says it's small. It's not a 350, 360 body screening. It's typically between 80 to 100 people. And we do that 3 to 4 times a movie, I would say. And the only comps we use are our movies. So we can kind of see how it's fallen between Iron Man and Captain America. You know what I mean? We're not trying to comp off of Creed or Speed Racer or things that aren't our movies, which is helpful for us, just to see where things are landing. And when he says comp, he means comparison. Basically, they are only comparing Iron Man to movies like Captain America, only MCU movies to other MCU movies. Now here he talks about a division in Marvel Studios called Parliament. He says, and then we have an Eternal group who has been called Parliament for reasons that are too goofy to get into, but it's just all of us who make these movies and shows. And you get a pretty unvarnished response to your film that is not motivated by other than we all want everything to be great. So far in the process, Marvel Studios shows 3 to 4 screenings of 80 to 100 people to just employees, people who don't really have anything to do with the movie, creating the movie that is. But then they show it to their group called Parliament, who are the people that actually work on the film and are responsible for making it a good movie. He then explains that they compare the two groups' notes, and he says, and I think between those two groups, you get an interesting cross-section of ideas, and you definitely know when both groups are saying the same thing. Hey, that's a problem. Sometimes you'll get more producer notes versus normal people notes, and you have to decipher which one is valuable or if they can coexist. but it is an interesting process and it has not led us astray so far. And the president of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige, went on to address this even further. Now, Nate Moore's interview was with Deadline's Crew Call podcast, but Kevin Feige's was with the Movie Business podcast. And when it comes to improving on projects, both TV shows and movies, and improving on phases like Phase 4, this is what he had to say. I think on every project we worked on, we learned lessons, and I think the minute you think you've learned it all, you should probably get out of the business. It's incredible to say, but Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which is our next feature that comes out in February, will be our 31st film. We've now completed over 10 series for Disney+, and the fun thing about starting to do ongoing narrative long-form series was it was a whole new learning curve. So right there, even Kevin Feige admits that this was new. There was a learning curve to doing Disney Plus shows, but of course, they are looking to improve. They are always trying to improve. And here he goes on to kind of say how. He says, and it was a whole new opportunity to stretch and work out a different storytelling muscle for us. But I do think, and I'm sure an example will come to me, but I do think that on every project one works on, you need to take your lessons. And we do a post-mortem on every project, or at least we try to if we're not too busy with the next project to sit and discuss what went right and what went wrong. And he continues to say, and we call them post-mortems now. At the time, it was a what went wrong meeting. We were asked to do a what went wrong meeting for Iron Man. And I thought, what went wrong? This movie's a giant hit. It launched a whole studio. Why do we have to do a what went wrong meeting? That's a horrible way to put it, which is what I was reacting to. But it is actually great to sit and go, here's what was done. Here's how we could have done it better. And we do that on every project. And I guess to distill it down of what lessons is learned is entertain the audience at every turn. Frank Capra has a quote that our co-president Luis de Esposito quotes often, which is basically distilled down to entertainment first. And this is where we talk about what Marvel's main goal is for every project they do, movie or show. And this is coming right from the Marvel Studios president himself. Entertainment is first. He continues to say, you can have as many beautiful messages and beautiful life theories and beautiful thematics that you want to put into the world, that all of us do, and all of our filmmakers do. But if you are not entertaining first, it will fall on deaf ears. And I think that has always been the way, and that thankfully, when you are making the kind of movies that you love to see, then that will also go into entertaining yourself, which is what we also try to do here at Marvel Studios. So it's really cool to kind of hear the process of what goes on in Marvel Studios when it comes to making things better and creating things that will entertain us, essentially, the fans. I've always applauded Marvel Studios from taking feedback a little bit from fans. Of course, they can't let fans dictate what they do, but they do listen. Then they have multiple screenings to people who aren't involved with the project, then people who are involved with the project, and then they have meetings afterwards and look back, well, what was done wrong? And this is where they kind of listen to the audience a little bit as well, and they always try to improve. And they've talked about a big change in Phase 5, a kind of ramp up, if you will, how things are going to be speeding up, essentially. So things are about to get super, super exciting. But hey, let me know what you thought about this cool little look into Marvel Studios' process on essentially trying to become better filmmakers and TV show producers. Leave your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest MCU news. You can always follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.